Catherine woke to the sound of fire crackling and the pleasant smell of wood smoke. She raised her head enough to look across the room to the big fireplace, where Papa stood shaving strips from a stick onto the coals from yesterday's fire that had been covered with ashes through the night. Then he laid on bigger pieces, and the blaze leaped up in a burst of flame that sent pink shadows wavering over the pine ceiling above her head. She lay back to watch the color come and go. Somehow the ceiling looked strange. So did the rest of the room. Now she remembered. This was not the house where she had lived for most of her 8.5 years that everyone in Platte County, Missouri, knew as the Sager house. Her father, Henry Sager, her mother, Naomi, and the 6 children had moved over here yesterday 5 miles from St. Joseph, near the Missouri River. She remembered the lovely red and gold leaves on the ground and the deep blue of the sky. The most beautiful time of the year, Mama said. Papa said they must always remember this fall of 1843 when they started for Oregon. They could not go on across the plains and mountains until next spring, but this was a start on their journey, and how lucky they were to be able to rent this cozy log house for the winter. Oregon. Catherine lay back to think about it. What would it be like? Her brother Frank, who loved to tease, whispered stories of Indians lurking in the woods. Remembering his tales, Catherine shivered and drew the blanket over her face, for she feared Indians more than anything else in the world. She heard the squeaking of the cords that supported the straw tick in the other big bed. Then the sound of Mama padding across the bare floor in her old red and yellow carpet slippers. The door creaked open, letting in a whiff of cold, fresh air. This was Papa, going out for a pail of water from the well. She heard the splash as he poured it into the black kettle that hung on the crane over the fire. "Frosty outside," he said. "We moved just in time to get settled in before winter." Papa stepped across the room to the foot of the ladder leading up to the loft, where his 2 sons slept. "John, Frank, time to get up. John, you go milk Bossy, while your mother cooks breakfast. Frank, hustle down here and bring in your wood and water." Catherine uncovered one eye to look at her brothers. They said they were not afraid of Indians. They wanted to go to Oregon. John's pleasant, round face appeared untroubled as he lifted the milk pail from a hook on the wall. At 13.5, he was almost as tall as Papa. His straight brown hair hung into his eyes. Frank's hair was long too, but appeared shorter because it curled in ringlets all over his head. With his pink cheeks and curls, he looked babyish even at 11. If only she could have curly hair like Frank's, thought Catherine. She and her sisters, Elizabeth, 6, Matilda, 4, and Louise, 2.5, were all small for their ages and looked as much alike as 4 peas in a pod, Papa said. Little round faces, fine, straight, light hair, and grayish-blue eyes that nobody ever noticed. Everyone noticed Frank's eyes, which were the lively blue of April skies. "I'll go feed the oxen," Papa tramped out after the boys. Catherine watched him cross the room, a stocky man of medium height, with thick, stubby brown hair and a short brown beard that Matilda loved to stroke as she sat on his lap. He had twinkly blue eyes and was always ready to laugh. Catherine loved his big, clever hands, which were equally capable whether he was wielding his blacksmith tools or soothing a sick child. Papa was proud of his 2 yoke of oxen, Jake and Ike, Buck and Barney, perhaps because he had never owned oxen before. Next spring, he said, he would buy 4 more so they would have plenty of spares to pull their big covered wagon to Oregon.